like goals?
Oh, and like we didn't pick the group though.
Oh, yeah, that's.
We picked the group.
Yeah.
Our group would have been golden.
Okay.
And like we would have flunked each other. We would have been getting stuff done so well. Like Aqua would have been in our group, like, and another girl, like it would have been great.
So the instructor picked your group? Yeah, that's not cool.
Well, she wanted the teams to be even.
Oh, so it's a kind of a competition too? See, I will never pick a group for any students, because then they turn around and they say, well, that wasn't fair. And
oh, I went up to her and I was like, you need to fully understand that I will hate my life. Because I already worked with this one person. Yeah. And he made me do all the work with Aqua.
That's not fair.
Like, this is his last semester. And he's like, I'm gonna do better. Then do better. Yeah. Step up to the plate. Step up to being the GM. Yeah. Yet I'm being the GM. So.
Yeah, that's not fair. And it gets to the point where you as a student wind up almost wanting to just go through the motions just to demonstrate, and that's not cool for your marks. So.
No, because to be completely honest, he was like, I thought I was gonna get extra marks for this. This is the only reason I went for the GM spot. Or what?
Nice.
If it was extra marks, everyone would have gone for it.
Exactly. Wow.
Had I known you were gonna go just for that reason, had I known you were in the running, I would have stepped up.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know who was going for it.
Yeah. That's not fair. It's really, really frustrating. I remember my first assignment when I went back to college, I fired a student.
Oh, I fully put in contracts that if he's not doing his job, yeah, he will get fired.
Like from the group?
From the group.
Yeah, okay.
The funny part is he signed the contract without reading.
Well, rule number one when you're a GM, never sign anything without reading it. So.
Yeah, like I can fully put in there that you and your buddy are gonna give Jessica and I $1 million.
Yeah, or at least half your marks.
Like.
Wow.
And it's in the contract. And it's in the contract that if you're like in all of the meetings, you can't touch your phone. The one guy uses his phone as a calculator.
Okay, as a calculator is okay. It's the ones that are constantly texting in the meetings.
He answered a message.
Yeah.
Where Jessica and I's phone, mine was face down, hers was face up. But they were together in a pile. Yeah. In the middle of the table.
That's really unfortunate when you're assigned groups, because then you're kind of stuck and there's nothing you can do. And that's, like I say, why I will never assign groups, because I would rather, like, you work well, I'm assuming, with these other ladies, and it's effective. And I want to see your most effective work. I don't want to see, there's going to be lots of opportunity for crisis management in the work world. I don't need to teach you how to handle that.
I already know how to handle crisis.
If anyone's got a big brother, they've handled it.
My big brother's an asshole.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, I'm number 7 of 8 children.
Okay, so then you've dealt with, yeah. Yeah, that's constant, especially during dinner times.
Oh, brutal. And I went up to her, well, I sent her an email, and I'm like, my GM doesn't understand the HOTS package, which is the package that we got that we need to base everything off of. Yeah. I'm like, he hasn't even opened it.
And what was the response?
Well, that's why you need to focus your contract on everything. And I understand that it is a challenge, but you're going to get through it.
Well, if you've got the out clause, execute it. Like before it's too late.
Oh, as soon as they touch their phones again in a meeting,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, this is your first verbal warning.
Yeah.
The next 2 warnings are written. If you do it again, you're fired.
Now, if you have to submit written warnings, submit a CC your instructor as well.
I will.
Yeah. So that way she's understanding that there is a continual challenge. But I like your approach though with the written warnings, because then nobody can come back and say, well, I didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's
like the first is a verbal.
Yeah.
The second 2 are written. Like
no, that's how it's done in the business world. It's called progressive discipline. And you would hope that after the verbal, if both you and Jessica are saying there is a problem, solve it, that he would solve it.
we've gone to our instructor so many times.
Yeah.
That we're like, he doesn't understand the hot package. Our business plan, he did the SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
He did it on 3 different hotels that were in the hot package.
Yeah.
Like,
Hello.
but yeah,
Wow. Not cool.
I'm not the happiest.
I don't blame you. Morning.
I'm not sure it's so high. Okay, you didn't lose it, it's just misplaced in your room. Yeah.
Well, there's not a lot of us here, but we'll start and then let them catch up. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a bit of material on content first, web design. And then once I've done that, I'll give you an opportunity to work on your assignments in class. You have 2 assignments. You've got the social media as well as phase 2. So I'll be circulating, giving you an opportunity to work on it in class. Because I know that your schedules are really, really busy and you've blocked off this 3-hour period anyhow. So let's see if we can't take advantage of it and help you out accordingly. All right. So any questions on that? No? Any questions on the assignments? Because I've noticed that, okay, so Vanessa, I've seen yours. Brianna, I've seen yours, and Stacy's. Louis, I've seen yours. Shamar, or not Shamar, that's a student in my other class. No, hold on. Oh, I was saying no. I was going to get it, Slay.
I did want to ask if it's okay with the other 2, Vanessa and
Aqua and Jessica.
Jessica. Thank you.
So we have 3 right now in a group, and you're asking, would you be able to join and make it a 4th?
Yeah.
That would be up to the group.
Yeah.
All right.
So if it's okay with all of us.
If they're okay with it, absolutely. That because it's up to 4.
Okay.
All right. And have I got your topics in yet? Like you're not in a group together. You may or may not be, but you haven't. You should submit it soon, because what's happening is it's a first come first serve. So all the really good ones are getting snapped up. I think Wendy's is gone now. BMW's gone. A cosmetic place. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sephora is gone. So they're all the really, like some of the big ones are being snapped up. So if you haven't submitted the company name yet, please do so. Phase 2 of the assignment is due on October 31st. I would recommend, if you haven't looked at it, you should get it done. It's worth 15% of your final mark. So there's lots of opportunity. If you're having a hard time in class right now getting the marks, then this is a golden opportunity to recover some of those lost marks or lost opportunities. Look it over. Like I say, in class today, I'm going to be, we're probably going to be finishing within about an hour and a half, and then we're going to have the rest of the time to work on these assignments. I'd recommend taking full advantage of it because I'll be here. I'll be able to answer questions. If you're stuck on page design or page development on your other part of the assignment, I can help. I can answer questions on the social media. So, okay, so today what we're going to be talking about is content and content first web design. Now, has anyone heard the phrase content first web design? No, it's pretty much straightforward, exactly as it sounds. It's web design based on what you're writing rather than what your idea of what the site's going to look like. And what you're going to find is after today's class, it might help you rethink how you're developing websites, because a lot of the time people, and from my personal experience, you'll talk to a client and they'll say, I don't care, just design the site and then I'll get you the information later. And what that does is that's great, but I'm going to show you some of the pitfalls as we're going along. So, okay, so smaller group, but what do you guys consider yourselves? Do you consider yourselves marketers, or do you consider yourselves publishers in the social media web development aspect? Are we marketers, or are we publishers? And I know it's 5 after 9 and I'm already asking you guys questions.
What do you mean with publishers? Publishing the website?
No, just publishing information, pushing information out to consumers. Whether it's
Well, it really depends. If it's a personal resume,
okay.
I guess it should be a marketing tool, right?
Okay. But are you, though, a marketer or a publisher?
Yeah.
You think you're a publisher? Okay. Why do you feel a publisher? Okay. Okay, so as a marketer, marketer's #1 job is creating advertisements and that type of thing. And as a publisher, our #1 job would be getting information. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, getting information that deliver to the customer.
Delivering it to the end user. Okay, so we have a couple perplexed looks, but we definitely have a publisher on this side. Brianna? Huh? What? Marketer or publisher, do you think? Marketer, probably. There's a definitive sitting on the fence answer. Okay. What about you, Stacy? With them both? Wow. Okay. So we've got a definitive over here. We've got the fence sitting, which is usually in this row, but it's over there. It's over here today. Okay. So what do you guys think? Do you think we're marketers or publishers? No comment? All right, too early in the morning. What about you? Same thing, or? Okay, too early in the morning. Yes, it's late. You're both? Again, fence, okay. Why both?
Why both? Because I am publishing content.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. All right, so really, as marketers, and you guys had the right answer, as marketers, we're kind of wearing two hats. But when you're developing web content, you really should be thinking like a publisher. You are creating content, you're pushing it out, just like what you were saying. You're gathering information and pushing it to the consumer, and you've got to think like a publisher. So you've got to consider, okay, so if I'm a publisher, what is important to my reader? And if you're, say for example, if you were to take a job as an editor or as a purchaser in a local publishing house, you're going to have to consider, what are people buying? So I've got this book that came across my desk. Will people buy this? So as you're creating the content, you've got to ask yourself, will people consume what I'm writing? And Is it valid to what I'm doing as a marketer? So you've done some marketing activities, whether you know it or not, on social media. You've published. So if you look at some of the stuff that you're doing, okay, now I was going to say Facebook, but last week we decided that the majority of the people don't use Facebook because your parents do now, and so you've kind of bailed from that, and you're more into Snapchat and Instagram. So you look at your activities, even on Snapchat. Are you a marketer? Well, you're kind of a marketer because you're marketing who you are, but you're also publishing that information about Vanessa, where you went for dinner last night. Oh, here's a picture of I don't know what you guys Snapchat, but here's a picture of my dinner. Because that seems like the biggest rage right now on Facebook is pictures of food. Or what you've done, etc. You're publishing that information for consumption. So you've got to think that way. You look at what you're doing, you're also consuming. So through podcasts, PR web, you've got your search engines that are eating up all of your content. You've got eBlogger, and as well, like I say, the social medias. All right. All right, just give me one quick sec. Okay. So what is content though? So we've talked about that we've got to start thinking like a publisher, that more and more information that we're generating is for consumption. But what is the how would you define content? I know, it's like 10 after 9 and I've already asked 3 questions.
Content is so not something, it's very subjective.
Okay.
Because it's like a combination of media, I guess, like images, videos, text. But I don't know if you're going.
Okay.
What's your?
All right. So you're saying images, media, text. Vanessa?
Are you asking for the definition?
Just in your eyes, what would you consider content?
It can be like a whole presentation that someone created.
Okay.
You're essentially doing content every single week.
Absolutely. How am I doing content though?
You're sharing the written word.
Because I do one thing very significantly different than most instructors in your programs do. Soleil?
You're sharing information that otherwise we wouldn't know.
Okay, that's cool. That's fair. Is that where you're going?
Yeah.
Stole your thunder. Just completely ripped it from your hands. Okay. But one of the things that I'm doing is I'm also creating the content. Similar to what Louis was saying, video is also content. So I'm recording the class. So I'm creating consumable information. So, and it's like you read the slide, Louis, because we've got text, graphics, video, and audio. So there you go. So it can be anything that you create that you're putting in for general consumption. So based on that, I create an ad. Is that content? Exactly. Anything that's housing servers now is something that we can start utilizing.
How about stories? You know, storytelling. You know, that's
Okay.
so popular now, so trendy now. Storytelling.
Storytelling. Okay. So what do you think?
That's definitely content to me. That's content. It's a
Okay.
way to market a product or a service or something.
Okay. So are you talking like an advertorial where you're presenting a story, but you're promoting a product, or you're just telling your story?
No, the first one.
Okay. So an advertorial. So, okay. So you think it's content. So does anyone disagree? Would it be, is it content for an advertorial because it's just a story?
I think it's the first time I hear that word advertorial.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, what an advertorial is it's an advertisement set up as an editorial. So if you're thumbing through a magazine, it looks like it's a real editorial article, and then as you're reading, it's singing the praises of that product that you were just talking about. Just give me 1 second here. I just want to make sure that. Okay. One of the challenges I'm having for whatever reason on a Wednesday morning class is that as I'm setting the videos to record, it's not sharing the screen. You're getting a lovely shot of me walking back and forth, but nothing that's on the screen. So some of the videos I'm going to have to correct. So you may not see them immediately. Okay, so yes, absolutely. Text, graphic, videos, and audio, advertorials. If I create a picture of, okay, so I'm working for Monster and I take a picture of this product. Is that content if I were to put it to social media or to Snapchat? Hey, well, I guess, okay, I learned something last night and I'm really desperately trying to get my head around the Snapchat, the whole Snapchat thing. So if I create a picture and I send it via Snapchat, the end user, whoever is in my network, cannot share that picture to their network. Is that correct? Screenshot. Okay, so there are methods, but it's not intended to be shared. So it's just strictly within that within that network. So based on that, so say for example, I'm a web developer and I've got all my family and my friends on Snapchat, and I create an advertisement for my web design company and I send it through Snapchat. Is that content?
Paid content.
Okay, so it's well, okay, paid content. What is paid content? Because you've used an interesting phrase, but I don't know if you've used it correctly. So what is paid media in your mind?
It's something that, I mean, you're promoting, you have to pay for that. Yeah. It's you're communicating a message that you have to pay.
Okay.
It's like social media advertising.
Okay, so I take a picture on my iPhone and I send that through Snapchat. How is that paid media?
I thought you had to create an ad. You don't have to create an ad.
Not on Snapchat.
It's just like
Snapchat, you can't and again, you can't create an ad on Snapchat. It's just strictly from your camera on your phone or some other device that would do that. Slade, did you have a question?
Oh, no, it's just like just have a vlog.
Sorry?
No, I just have a more vlog.
Okay, a vlog?
No.
I can't.
Arm was locked.
Oh, your arm was locked. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were offering some more ideas. But okay, so is this Snapchat then content though? So we take the picture and we send it to all my friends in Snapchat. Is it content? You don't think so? Okay. Anybody else? I'm going to ignore Soleil because I know that that you're not trying to go, hey, I've got an answer.
I don't think Snapchat is content because it doesn't stay there forever.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. Okay, so it's not content because it's not designed to be permanent.
Yeah.
That's really kind of an interesting idea. Now, are you answering? Or okay.
I am answering.
Okay.
Snapchat is constancy again, where even if it's a short amount of time,
Yeah.
you're doing it. And like he said a little bit, like it is not technically an ad or where it is, but sometimes there will be like advertisements on Snapchat sometimes.
Okay.
But it's been paid for. You can't create it,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Okay, so these advertisements that come through Snapchat are people that are paying through Snapchat, and every once in a while your whole network gets inundated with whatever the company is. Okay. So okay.
oh, sorry.
No.
Movie advertisements, or obviously there's magazines, which
Okay, cool. All right, so you think that it is content. So some interesting different opinions. In my opinion, it's content because if you've created something for consumption, it's content. Whether it's there on a temporary basis or whether it's there permanently, it's still content in my definition. Now, but you guys have given some great differing opinions, and if there's one thing that I am is I'm swayable. If you come up with a great explanation, I would accept that. So there's some great definitions there. Okay, so why does content matter? Now, this I'm going to tell you is very significant. Perhaps in a few weeks, some of these steps could be very significant. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! All right, I don't know what we would be having in a couple of weeks, but you might want to pay attention. Anyhow, content matters because it tells your story. It's if you're developing a personal resume site, it's telling who you are. If you're a B2B organization, it's telling what the company does, who they are, what they stand for, what their products are. If you're just a person that's going on Facebook, it's still news for you. It's still telling your story. And if you look at your previous Facebook posts or your Instagram posts, I'd say your Snapchat, but you can't look at the previous ones. But your say for example your Instagram, you're still telling a story of who you are. And if someone were to go on to your account and go back through your timeline, content can also answer people's questions. What is this widget? What does it do? How do I use it? Where would I use it? Why would I use it? It's answering consumers' questions. But the other thing is, and in Web 2.0, content is being developed from the consumer side as well as the organizational side. So I create a post on this latest and greatest product, the slide advancer, and as consumers, you're creating counter content for me by saying, hey, you know what? I just purchased this and it didn't work when I got it originally. I contacted customer service. They handled it great. They sent me a new one out immediately. I had it within a day and was awesome. Now, if in the past, if I were to ignore that problem, now, Louis, if you received this product and you said, well, it was dead out of the box and I couldn't use it, that was it, then it's still content, but it's not what the 2.0 is used for. Web 2.0 is used for, you create content for me, I respond through to you. So if you send me an email, I've sent this and it's dead out of the box, or not an email, but you send me, you post it on my website or on my specification page as a comment, hey, you know what, this was dead out of the box. And the first thing as me as a marketer is going to do is I'm going to create more content by replying to you and saying, well, that's unfortunate. Here's what we're going to do. Just send us the product back, we'll, et cetera, et cetera. So Louis now walks away with a great feeling because I handled the product and I was quick about it. I resolved the issue. But now, if Jessica's thinking about buying the same product, now she can go onto that specification page and she sees that, oh, that product was dead out of the box. That's not a good thing. Oh, but look at the customer service. Look at how they handled that situation. Maybe I'll buy it anyhow because they stand behind their products. Now, if I ignored Louis, the next thing he would do is post another thing saying these guys aren't even replying. And when I was in your boat doing marketing on the web, actually one of the assignments that I did for the social media was Old Spice. And one of the things that I noticed with Old Spice was they were saying, like the Old Spice deodorant, was they were saying that the product is burning consumers. And Old Spice never replied. They didn't say, that's very strange, send us the product back, we'll check out what's going on. But they were getting chemical burns and they were just letting it go. So as a new society of Web 2.0, now we're looking at it and going, all right, they're not responding. They must already know about the problem and they're just ignoring the issue. And that turns into a bigger nightmare. So it answers people's stories. The other thing that the content can do is inspire and entertain you. So okay, well, I was going to say these videos I do in class, I'm sure they entertain you when you've got nothing to watch on a Friday night. You turn on my class videos and they entertain you. I know it happens, and I feel good about that. But it's all designed, and if you think about what we're doing as a society now, is we are trying to entertain the consumer. We're trying to inspire you to make that purchase. So what was happening is in the 80s, if you're watching a TV show in the 80s, an advertisement would come on. The first thing you would do is get up, let the dog out, grab a snack, and you poke your head in. Okay, commercials are still on. You do something else, wash the dishes, then come back in once the commercials were over. Then Super Bowl picked up on the right idea, which was, you know, if we entertain the people, if we make this communication enjoyable, they're going to watch it. We're not spending millions of dollars for no reason in hopes that somebody watches it. So in comes the Super Bowl. They set the stage, and now YouTube, if you think about all the YouTube videos that you watch, they're all, most of them now are all like they're revenue driven. So I'm hoping that my videos don't come through as revenue driven where there's commercials and whatnot. I hate that. So I'm really hoping they don't. Yeah.
You have to apply. You have to apply AdSense.
Okay.
That's everything that you have to apply to AdSense. It's like,
They've got to set criteria.
yeah, it's like you have to apply to their what's it called? It's I'll just say AdSense.
Yeah.
Like set up tasks and all that, just like a lot
Okay.
of steps for it to have ads.
Well, then I haven't done that, so I'm okay that way. So good. All right. So all of you can enjoy commercial-free Keith all the time. And if you've consumed all of my marketing on the web information, then you can go on to my other courses. But anyways, I'm just kidding. But it's designed to inspire and entertain. And I call it the YouTube loop, that you sit down and I get stuck in this trap where I'll sit down and I go, okay, I've got this class I've got to prepare for. I've got this marketing to do. I've got this, I've got that. I've got this client looking for the website. I'm just going to watch a quick video. So then you look up a subject and you watch the video and it entertains you. It's really kind of, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But then on the side, it's saying, hey, by the way, if you watch this video, you'll love this video. And you scroll down and you see something else and bang, then you click on it again. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, the night's gone and you go, what happened to the time? But it's the YouTube loop. But they're all designed to entertain and inspire. And if you look at some of the best commercials out there are designed for web consumption. Bud Light has some great commercials if you want to check them out. They were designed for TV, but they're being consumed more now via internet. And like I said, I'd recommend it as marketing on the web students to check out Bud Light. It is, if you like to laugh, there's some funny stories. It also motivates you. So as a consumer, I'm thinking about buying this product. I've seen an entertaining video. I've got the information. Now, what happens is at the time of purchase, I'm going, okay, I'm going to buy that Kensington product. And hopefully I'm the one I'm not buying it off myself, but I'm the one selling it to you. So it motivates you. It also just it drives, and this is kind of goes back to the motivation. It drives your decision making. It makes it so that the mind share of the consumer goes to this product. Now, the other thing that content can do is it manages expectation. This is kind of what I was talking about when I was using you as an example, Louis, of when you bought this product. If as a society, is it normal for us to expect every product to be working as soon as we receive it? Yeah. Okay. So you buy it, you expect it to work. Okay. Did you say yes or no? I kind of no. It's not reasonable. Okay. Okay. All right. So you're talking a brand new product. So work the bugs out type thing. Okay. Vanessa?
Depending on what it is, I would expect it to work a little bit. It should function.
Okay.
It should be doing its job. If there's still bugs to take out, that's fine, and like give updates, but like it should work.
Absolutely. So you buy this slide advancer, you're expecting as soon as you open it from the box, it should work. That's your contract with the manufacturer.
Yeah.
You're paying them, they're giving you this product. In exchange, you're getting use of this product. Exactly. Okay, so it manages your expectations because, yes, absolutely, I expect this to work. However, I go on the manufacturer's website and I go to that spec page and I notice that there's 15 comments where it wasn't working out of the box. So now as a consumer, you've got a decision. Do I still buy this product, even though I'm seeing that there's some issues coming out of the box dead, or do I not? But now it's also setting the table for expectations, because Louis and I had that conversation back and forth where I fixed the problem for him right away. And then I almost guarantee you that when you get service like that, the first thing that you're going to do once you get your product and it's working again is you're going to go back on that website and go, you know what? They had a problem. It was solved. So now we're setting the table for the expectational levels. It also brings your brand to life. It's tough to describe what life was like before the internet, because if you don't have a point of reference, you can't understand. But more often than not, this product would be in print. How do you demonstrate this product in print? You can't. So now we've got the video, we've got YouTube. One of my clients constantly sends me emails because his supplier is creating these ridiculous videos. I guess some people are finding it funny, but as a marketer, I'm looking going, I don't understand the brand message. I don't understand why they're doing this. I don't understand the production value, but they're so awful that they're entertaining, because you walk away and you're laughing at them, which is kind of the intent, because I remember that product, the brand name now. So they entertain me by going so awful that they recognized we're not a video production house. They recognized we don't have big name TV stars. So we're going to do something completely different, which is just be deliberately bad. Or at least that's what, okay, I really hope that was their intent. Because if not, they handled it really well and they nailed it. But what it's doing, though, is I remember that about 5 years ago, there was a new legislation, an international legislation, where we used to have signs that said exit. Okay, and I don't know if you guys remember, there were red and black signs that said exit. But what's the challenge with your exit signs? Louis, what's the word for exit in your native language?
Salida.
Salida. Oh, okay. And what's the word for exit for you? You have no idea? Oh, okay. So you'd be just stuck in a burning building and say, I don't know, I can't do anything. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So, but where I'm trying to go with that is that all the different nationalities within this room alone, that exit sign's no longer any good. So they came up with a new legislation called the Green Running Man. And now you see green signs with a guy running through the door. So, and hopefully the door's open. So anyhow, but he's running through the door, and now visually, it doesn't matter if you speak great English or you don't speak English at all. Now you're starting to go, oh, I get what I'm supposed to do. So this company came up with the Green Running Man. So it was awful. Anyhow, but it entertained. And I remember now, as a consumer, if I needed a Green Running Man sign, I'd know exactly where to go to get it. So it kind of succeeded in what it was doing. It brought the brand to life. And then the last thing is, and I have a saying with my children, it takes a lifetime to build trust and a second to lose it. And that's really, truly what's happening in the internet as well, is no matter how hard you work to build the trust, if you break the trust of the consumer, you might as well shut down operations. So once you've established that level of trust, so for example, if you're Apple and you've been actually, no, I'm going to go with Samsung, because it was almost totally devastating for Samsung when they launched the Note 7. Because what was happening, I don't know if you guys remember, you'd plug it in and you'd go away and you'd come back and you'd be able to roast marshmallows over it, because you'd have a little campfire going on your desk, because the batteries were heating up and they were catching fire or exploding while they were in use. Not a real comfortable thing, especially if you're on a flight and all of a sudden your battery explodes in your pocket. So that could have been financially devastating. And it was, because it cost Samsung a generation of users. Because as the people are going, okay, you know what? I need a new phablet, I think they call it now, because it's a phone tablet. I need a new phablet. But oh, the Note 7 explodes. I'm just going to go with the iPhone 6 Plus. So now you've lost an entire generation, and you hope that you can regain it. So these are the types of things where it's going to help either build or break your trust, and how you handle that in the public eye is very, very significant. So content really does matter, and I would recommend That would be a good slide to review. Now we're going to take the sales hat off and we're going to start going with the publisher mindset. So the interesting thing is that all along as a B2B or a B2C organization, what's been going on is we've been going, okay, product first, let's sell, 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 sell. But now companies are straying from that, and they're starting to offer more, one of their core products. Okay, so if I'm Kensington and I'm marketing this on the internet, this is a core product, but what's another core product that now I'm starting to lean more and more towards as a web marketer in 2.0 world? It's a generic one. It doesn't matter if I'm manufacturing these, computers, fire hydrants, whatever. What is and I've mentioned this in class, information. So now we're no longer just marketing our product, we're providing information to people. And a good example of that is Don Kamarenchuk. I think I've got to learn to pronounce his name. Former Georgian grad, is renowned worldwide for his macro photography. He takes pictures of snowflakes and mosquitoes, and that's all he does. So he's got a niche product there because people are paying a lot of money to do that. He's been recognized by the BBC. So wow, that's kind of cool. Now he's worldwide. He's on the BBC. The Canadian Mint actually contracted him to design a coin. So he's got all these different things. Now what do you think he's doing is he's actually now offering classes on how to duplicate his art. So he's no longer going, okay, this is my process. I'm not going to share that with you. He's now saying, okay, so I've been very successful. Now I'm going to show you how to do the same. Why would he do that? Okay, mental note. So when I'm scheduling classes next semester, nothing before 10. Yeah, of course. Noon is better. Okay, the reason that he's doing it is because he's establishing himself as the thought leader. If I give you how to do what I do, chances are some of you might do it. But what it's doing is it's igniting the passion in you. So if I'm Don and I'm taking pictures of snowflakes and I'm showing you how to do it, you're going, oh, I got to try this. Oh, it didn't work out. And now all of a sudden you've ignited that passion. So now you want to consume his product. But the other thing is that now as you're going more and more forward, and okay, I'm going to use me as an example. I'm creating all these videos, all this is intellectual property in my head, but I'm sharing it on video. But what I'm going to do with that now is it's on YouTube, so you guys can all consume it, which is great. It's an awesome experience for you. Well, not to have to sit through my class twice, but it's an awesome opportunity for you to be able to go back and see what you've missed. If you miss a class or if you're sitting at home sick, you can just tune it in on YouTube, and it's live. Anyways, so it's live. But what I'm doing now is 6 months from now or a year or 2 years from now, that video is still online. So if I'm now looking for a new client and the client says, well, I need some marketing experience. I need somebody that knows what they're talking about, who has experience in marketing on the web. What can I now do? Check out the videos. This is my class. Have a look at some of my thoughts. This is me imparting what I know to other people. Now I'm now the thought leader in that consumer's mind. So now they've got some more information that they can consume and that they can make their decisions on. And best case scenario is once they've consumed it, they may turn to, and one of my clients did this, where they were really happy with what I produced for them. Now they can turn to some of their other network and say, hey, by the way, you're looking for a website? Check this guy out. He's really good. He did ours. And here's some videos. So now I'm getting my information passed on to further. Any questions on what I've gone over so far? No? Okay. Something to notice about media content. I'm just reading what I've written here. Okay, now this is actually something I've been talking about all semester long, is when you're producing content online and you've got a following of 100 Twitter followers, is it good for every tweet that you send out to be selling this product? No. Why not, Soleil?
Because people just get tired of me.
Yep. And I think I used my cousin as an example on Facebook. All she did was sell. I eventually unfriended her, and that's family, because nobody wants that. But if I were to send out tweets talking about the latest faux pas that Donald Trump did, or talk, well, let's be content specific for on today, talking about the legalization of cannabis. If I'm sending out tweets like that and I'm engaging you, and then Brianna, you go, yeah, I don't know, I think Donald Trump is as crazy as you do, and I'm now replying to you. Now I've got the communication going back and forth. Your network is seeing that type of communication as well. So now your network's going, whoa, wait a minute, this guy might know what he's talking about, and start following me as well. So the number one thing, though, that as a content producer that I've got to be cognizant of is to make sure that I'm giving the content that consumers want. Okay, so if I'm giving them nothing but sales, that's not what the consumer wants. If they want information on Donald Trump, I should be producing that for them. So you've got to, it's no longer just marketing per se. You've got to understand thoroughly what your demographic is expecting. So we did that one experiment in class about the desktop versus the mobile, who's consuming more, and everyone was pretty sure that it was mobile. And in Canada, it's actually almost 50-40 on behalf of desktop. That's something that you should know. So that's the type of thing that you should know about your consumer. Never assume anymore. You've got to make sure that your consumers are going to consume your data. And like I was mentioning in the second bullet, people are not getting that you shouldn't be nonstop selling. If you think about some of the people that are on your social network, it's constantly a barrage, and people start tuning you out. Similar to this class. Okay, and the number one thing that you got to remember is it's all about your customer. It's no longer as a manufacturer what I want to tell you. It's what you want to hear. So if Nicholas tells me, I really want to hear about not how the product works, but how it's made, I should start listening to that, and I should start speaking to that. Hey, you know what? This is how we manufacture the product. So things are no longer industry secrets. It's no longer, if the company that about 15 years ago, companies would manufacture this product, and their research, their development, and their manufacturing process were all under lock and key. No one would be able to know it. It's called a trade secret. And any company nowadays that has trade secrets is going to be going out of business very soon. So here's a skill testing question for you. Ha! Oh, no, it's a Ryobi house. Because skill is a drill. Anyhow, think like a customer. Why do you, as a customer, buy a drill? Why would you buy a drill? Okay, so okay, no, but why would you buy a drill though? So you're going to Home Depot and you're buying that drill. So now you are just the consumer, no longer the marketer. Why would you buy it, Vanessa?
For my boyfriend.
For your boyfriend. Okay. So you're buying your drill for your boyfriend. Okay. Why would someone else buy a drill? Yeah.
Because they need to use it as a tool.
Okay, they need to use it as a tool. Okay, Nicholas?
Murder.
Murder? Okay, that's a little dark. I've seen some of your poetry, though. Not surprising. So, okay, we'll just bypass that one. Why else would people buy drills? It's Halloween, and this is the Halloween episode, I guess we'll call it. The number one reason that people buy drills is because they need a hole. They don't buy the drill because they want the drill. They want the hole that the drill produces. Sorry? With it, okay. And actually, you're absolutely right. And I use that analogy when I'm talking about web design. Yes, you can hammer a screw into the wall and it's effective, but it's the wrong tool. So the best tool to use would be a screwdriver. Similar to a hole, yes, you could punch a hole in the wall, but it's not going to be a precision hole. You can put a hammer through the wall, but it's not going to be the right size.
Make you a hole.
Okay, so touche. All right, touche. But okay, so if I've got a wall and I'm trying to hang a picture, I'm not looking for a hammer hole. So anyhow, so consumers will buy a drill for the end purpose. If you buy a camera, do you buy the camera just because you want the camera or because you want the pictures that the camera will produce? So if you think about your purchases, everything is motivated for a reason. You buy a bottle of Coke, not because, well, okay, some of you might buy it because it's got your name on it, which is okay. But I'm guilty. I came across one with my name. I just bought it. I didn't even want it, but I bought it because my name was on it. But you buy the product for what it was intended for. So the bottle of Coke for refreshment. You buy the drill for the hole. You buy the car for the transportation. All right, so you've got to think like a customer when you're marketing on the web. Social media. All right, we're going to work for about 5 more minutes, and we'll take a break and get you guys some caffeine because I always find that you guys perk up a little bit more in the second part. Social media. So social media will only work if you give the consumer something of value to them, whatever they feel that's valuable to them. So, for example, the Kensington thing again. If I'm creating social media posts and one of you are my customer, I've got to make sure that what I'm producing in that post is of value to you. I've got a couple chefs in the room, and if I'm trying to get a job at a local restaurant, and this is a little bit of a life hack for you. If you're trying to get a job at a local restaurant, get an Instagram account. Take pictures of your creations. Take pictures of the dishes that you make. Put them on Instagram. Share them find out what Instagram accounts local restaurant owners have or managers. Find out share yourself and go on the networks of, it used to be Care of Food, and I can't think of what the name of it is now, but share yourself on Restaurant Brands International, things along those lines, because that's what your consumer wants. As a prospective employee, your consumer is looking for, what can you do for me? What can you as the drill produce for me? So take lots of pictures of your dishes, send them out, and make sure that you're on the right networks. But then, once you've got the products out there, so all these different social media platforms, once you've got it out there, then you've got to listen for what the consumer is saying to you. If the consumer is going, well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to use the chef example because, like I say, there's a couple of us. And say I'm a GM of a local steakhouse, we'll call it. And I'm on your network. You send a picture of this steak that it's probably cooked to perfection on the inside. It is a masterpiece. But you put the picture up there, and I'm saying, well, you know what? That's an interesting picture, but it looks burned on the outside. Now, as the producer of that content, you could either be offended because, well, cooking is your art, and how dare you question it? It's cooked to perfection on the inside, but your picture's not going to convey that. So as a producer, you're going to either go, well, okay, you know what? Unfollow and remove them from it because how dare they? Or you can now engage that person because now that person has played their hand that they're looking at your pictures. They're following you intently. Now you can say, oh yeah, actually, do you know what? I had the heat turned up a little bit high and it burned, but you know, it's cooked perfectly inside. Now that person's probably going to go back to you and say, you know what? What I found is I do this to prevent burning. Okay, so now you've got the cross communication. And what's going to happen is you're going to develop a very strong social network. And when you've got that social network, when it comes time, once you've got your graduation diploma in your hand, and you are now okay, forgive me. Okay, who's a chef in this class, or who's going through for a chef? Okay, now you're all going to make me look stupid because I know that there's a couple of you in here. You're going through? Okay, good. All right, I knew you were out there. Okay, so once you're done, are you officially a chef, or do you still have to go through for some more papers? Okay, but you've got the diploma. Okay, so you can be a sous chef at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so they've got the diploma and they're looking now to become a sous chef until they can get their chef's papers. They've been communicating back and forth with the local restaurant managers, talking about their dishes. They walk in and say, hey, you know what? We've been talking and you've been commenting on my pictures. Here's my Instagram account now. Oh yeah, I remember you. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to hire you. They're going, because now they know who you are. They've communicated with you. They've got a relationship. Very, very similar to how I got the job in Georgian. I started networking, and I worked with some of the instructors. I worked very closely with them. I communicated via social media. I made sure that I was sending out volunteering, and volunteering is a very key strategic move. I was volunteering at the school, and when opportunities came, the first thing they thought of was me. Well, maybe not, but they are now thinking of me, and I'm standing before you. So these strategies do effectively work. All right. So why don't we stop here, take about a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 10 o'clock. And like I mentioned at the start of the class, it's just going to be the lecture, and then it's going to be an open class for you guys to ask questions about your assignments, work on your assignments, and I'll be circulating, offering help if you need it.
Social media.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by a blocking chart in the website, the social media?
Okay. So you've not done a blocking chart yet? And this is where sometimes I fall into a trap, because I assume that you guys have done a level of marketing plan. So a blocking chart is basically, it's a spreadsheet.
You mean the marketing channels and what are you going to publish? The content?
Yeah, exactly. So you got the rows, and then you've got this.
Yeah.
And then you would say, okay, you know what? In this one, I'm going to do this here. This one, I'm going to do this here. That type of thing.
Makes sense.
Okay.
But we have to submit that separately from the website. I mean, the website is one part,
Yeah.
and then that's an Excel document. Or
Yeah, that's
what do you
fine.
want?
Excel or PDF.
And then I also was thinking about the social media assignment.
Yeah.
Do you prefer us to present here in front of the class, or do you prefer a recorded presentation?
What would you prefer? However you want to present.
I never did that recorded presentation.
Okay, then I'm going to suggest, with the amount of work that you have on your plate, and the challenges that you've experienced so far this semester, focus on just doing the presentation. It's a lot quicker. For a 9-minute video, when I was producing the videos for the presentations, it was taking me probably about 10, 11 hours. So it's not worth it. All right. So I would recommend just focusing on a PowerPoint. Don't forget though that you can link and show some of the social media. So if they've got YouTube up, you can link and show the video as long as it's short, etc.
Another question.
Yes, sir.
For the part 2 of assignments.
Yep.
We have to create a lot on the website, but we also have to write a written report and explaining what we have done following these sections.
Well, okay, so the plan itself it doesn't need to be like a 20 or 30 page written report. It's just, this is the plan. This is what I'm expecting that the page is going to look like. This is why I'm executing it that way. You want to do the research, which we've already done in class. Well, we tried to do in class with the keyword research. Also, though, you should do some research on your competition, whomever that might be, so you can talk with that and get you thinking strategically. Then you can plan out the content. So then you can say, okay, fine, and we're going to talk about content first design. So if you haven't created a whole lot yet, this class is for you. And then developing then writing some content. It doesn't have to be complete by the 31st. It just has to have a significant improvement from the first one.
Oh, when you say here, submit your written work, means
Yeah.
we have to write
Yeah.
a report, right?
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't have to be an official. No, okay, you've already created the website.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is adding to the website.
So in blog.
Yeah. So you're adding blogs to it. You're basically taking what we started with in the first part and building onto it.
So we came to that for that.
No, you've got it. All of this stuff is based on your website. Oh, are you talking social media, or are you talking the major assignment?
Major assignment.
Okay, so the major assignment's about, like, the original intent was that you're creating a resume website for you. So the blogs are about what you do. So if I'm a prospective employer, I want to know more about what you do, not your personal experiences.
So you need to make a blog and tell everything.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I say, follow the instructions, but you've got to create content, you've got to do research, you've got to do strategy as well. If you follow the rubric, you won't go wrong.
But is there a minimum of words for this report?
No. If you give me quality information, I'm good with that.
Monday website is about the resume.
Yeah.
So are we talking about the product, like whatever it is?
No, you're talking about you. You are the product. For a resume website, it's all about you.
And also about the development.
Yeah, so develop a plan. So what information do you want on your site? So you got, your plan is, okay, so I want a resume. I want a blog telling people what I do. If you look at my personal resume website, I have all the courses updated, the description of it. So as a prospective employer, they can go, they can click it, and they can see the description.
What courses I've done and
Oh,
what I'm
absolutely.
doing.
Yeah, and that's huge because prospective employers. Okay, one of the assumptions that we make as students is that everybody knows what our courses are, but in the working world, these people have no clue. So if you start using abbreviations like one of the programs,
I done nutrition in my channel for last semester, so I have a good knowledge of.
so I would put that on there
Yeah.
and do the course and include a link to the school's course descriptions. And then that way, if I'm a prospective employer, I go, well, what is that course? What did you learn? I can click on that link and go, oh, this is what it was all about. Okay, and you got a 95 in that? Oh, that's perfect. So you-
It's big plus point.
yeah, exactly. All right. Okay. All right, why don't we get started? I'm going to start making 5-minute breaks in the expectation that by the time everyone gets back, it'll be a 10-minute break. Anyways, okay, so we've been talking all morning about content, and as you're going along, what I'm doing is I'm setting the building blocks for content first web development. So content is the art of understanding what your customers need to know and delivering it to them in a compelling way. So similar to me as an instructor, my goal or my responsibility is to understand what the employers need in the world. So once you've graduated, you're not walking out there going, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to understand what the employers need, and you as my consumer, I need to impart that information onto you in a compelling way that A, you want to come to class, but B, when you're in class, you're not drifting off to sleep, and C, you're actively participating. So that's my challenge as an instructor. So what are all these things? You've got content marketing, branded content. Now, branded content is something that's very interesting because I'm going to suggest that if you've already created your social media sites, have a look at how they're presented. Very similar to the social media assignment. Make sure that your site, your social media are all branded consistently. So maybe the consistent branding is you use the same profile picture on all of your social media. On the top banner, all the images are the same. And as I was mentioning, I was doing some work with the Toronto Blue Jays charity, and one of the things that jumped out at me was on their Facebook page, the main banner picture was an empty baseball diamond, first off, which was kind of disappointing because they completely missed their brand, because the charity was teaching children and at-risk communities, getting them to play baseball. Yet they use a picture of an empty baseball diamond. Kind of counterintuitive to what the message was supposed to be, because it should be a bunch of kids on the baseball diamond, but it was empty. So that was the one. Then the second one was a kid at a camp. Then the third one was BJ Birdie or whatever they're calling their mascots now. Another one was a different picture, and there was no consistency. And what you should do as an exercise, once you're ready to submit your final version of your assignment to me, print out your social media sites. Just do a screenshot, print them out, and put them on the table. And you can do this exercise for your social media assignment that we're doing, and it's actually very telling. And I do this exercise with my clients as well, where, say, for example, we're doing spec sheets. In the work world, spec sheets will morph as you're going along. The font will slightly change and then slightly change more. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, it's completely different from where it started. So what I'm suggesting is you print out your social media sites, you put them on a table, and then you have a look at them all side by side and look to see if the branding is consistent, if the branding is telling the story. So, and I'm trying to, Brista's website, is your image, your logo, is it on everything? Is the message that you're trying to convey through pictorial the same message, or is it all completely different? You might have an argument where you say, well, you know what? It's travel, right? Okay, so it's a travel website. Why would we want to send put the same picture on when we can do so many different destinations? That makes sense. But as long as they're consistent, that's fine. So say, for example, one of the things I would do if I were doing a travel site would be, for all the different social media, would be maybe the 7 Seas, where you take a picture of the Pacific, like the skyline of the Pacific Ocean, then one of the Atlantic, et cetera, and that's consistent. So that makes sense. The images are different, but it's the same subject matter. So that's the type of stuff that we're talking about with branded content. Content strategy, plan, and this is what we're starting to talk about with the phase 2 of your assignment. How you're going to produce the content. What are you going to be saying in it? Because I've had some assignments submitted where the message is completely different from what you should be saying. So start planning it out. And Louis, is the blocking chart in part 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were also talking about a blocking chart for when you're doing your social media posts. Have you guys had experience with blocking charts? No. Okay, so a blocking chart, basically, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and you've got your exercises or activities. So say, for example, posting a Facebook blog or a Facebook post, and then this is your dates along here. So you've got 1st, the 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, we'll say. So during that month, you want to put a Facebook post, you've got Twitter, you've got YouTube. So Facebook is on the 1st, then Twitter is on the 8th, and maybe you want to do it on the 1st as well, etc. So you're just filling in the squares. So that's basically telling you, oh, I hate chalk. That's basically telling you when you're supposed to be doing this. So if you were to print out that document, then you can quickly look and go, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this. And trust me when I say this, when you've got YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all on the go, I feel sorry for my partner in business because her responsibility is the social media for our clients. And mine is easy. I'm just creating the websites and the web content. I've got one thing, but when you're dealing with social media, if you're not organized, it will come back and bite you. So you've got to make sure that your strategy is there. You want to also do some custom publishing, custom media, customer media. Now, the difference between custom media and customer media. Custom media would be more specific. Now, they're kind of the same thing. If you step back and you look at it, they sound the same, but they're also kind of a similar meaning because if I've got a customer, Louis, you're my customer, and Brianna, you're my customer, and you really like to know all about the exact specifications of this product, what it looks like, how it functions. I create media for you. Brianna, she wants to know what the solution is. What is the hole that's being produced with this drill? So now I've produced for Louis. Now I've got to change it up and produce for Brianna, being specific to what she looks for. So very similar custom media and custom and customer media. It's even more difficult to say. Information marketing. Don't forget when you're marketing on the web, it's no longer all about your product or your brand. It's all about the information that you're marketing. So the nice thing is that people are starting to understand more and more what's expected of them on marketing on the web. In fact, 56% of the marketers have increased their spending on content creation over the past 5 years. So it's a very slow rock that we're pushing up the hill because companies are still going, well, I don't think that we need to focus on content, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So something to consider, and everyone's had a chance now, you've walked around, you've had your morning coffee or your waters or whatever. Why are people starting to spend more money on content creation? Yes?
Because everyone's online.
Everyone's online, absolutely. Why else? Louis, you had it last week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was. You were talking about one of the reasons. Give up? It's cheaper. Remember we had that talk about how quick and cost effective it is. It's easy to customize content. So back when we were just doing full page newspaper ads and trade publications and radio spots and television ads, it wasn't so easy. Like I had to create content that would speak to both in the situation where you were interested in the specs and Brianna was interested in the solution. I had to create content that kind of could speak to both of you, but speak to neither of you at the same time. But now I can create a YouTube video that speaks directly to you. Well, not addressing you and, hey, Louis, this is what we're doing, but it speaks to what your needs are. Then I can create a second YouTube video that speaks to Brianna's needs. And Stacy might have a completely different one. Nicholas, a completely different one. And now we can create content specific to those people because it's cheaper. And like I was mentioning, and if you saw these videos that I'm talking about, I might show one of the videos just to show you that it doesn't have to be high quality material. People are producing it at very low budget. So one of the questions that you've got to ask yourself is, are you going to be the trusted solutions provider, or is it going to be your competitor that is? And that's very significant. So if you're working for somebody, or if you're trying to get a job, and especially if you're trying to get a job, do you want to position yourself as I am the solution provider for your needs? Or is it going to be somebody else? Is it going to be Vanessa who gets that solved? All right, so it depends on how you position yourself. Now, what kind of a solution can you provide for an employer if it's a resume website? What's the problem that you're trying to solve for the end viewer of your website?
They need to find somebody with specific skills.
Exactly. So as a resume site, they need to find somebody that has a specific set of skills. Now I'm starting to sound like Liam Neeson, but they have a specific set of skills that they need to fill. From a travel agency, you need to provide information. Is it a travel agency or is it just kind of travel information? Okay, so as an information, well, that's just as relevant to what we're talking about. As an information provider, now you've got to come across as the experts, because otherwise people will see right through what you're saying. If you say, yeah, Russia's really nice in January, it's very warm, people are going to see through that because they know Siberia is not such a nice place to be in January. So anyhow, so you've got to be the trusted solutions provider, and that's what the content is going to help you do. So the problem and its impact. We're moving along again. Remember, content first. We're slowly building towards that concept now. So right now what we're doing is paying a lot of attention to shuffling the content. So we've got the content manager that's doing all, well, I'm not going to read all these, you can read them, but you've got the manage, the structure, the design and share between them. You've got the manage, so you've got the sales department writing material. You've got the marketing department writing material, customer service, the structure. Well, you've got IT, you've got the web designer, you've got the social media person, design and share. You've got the strategists in there. You've got the analytics. You've got the content. So there's all sorts of hands in this pie. All right. So one of the things that's not being done is it's not overseeing the content itself, what we're saying, what the message is, how we're sourcing the material, what the copywriting is, the editing and proofreading. Now, I'm okay. You can thank my last summer's class because I used to have a policy where it was 5% off or 5 marks off per spelling error, up to 5 spelling errors, and it was a 0. I did that, but there's a heavy international community in Georgian college, and you're learning English, you're working with English. It's not your mother tongue. So they said, hey, you know what? That's not fair to mark me down so much because I'm learning the language as I'm at college, and that's fair. So I'm going to recommend, and if it's blatant or it's really, really bad, yes, you are going to lose marks. But if there's one or two spelling mistakes, I'll point them out to you, because your content should be flawless. Okay? Because if you're trying to establish yourself as the expert, so say for example, Louis, your resume, you're working towards a automotive degree. I can see that by your shirt. So he's going through for an automotive diploma. And if he's talking about the latest BMW car, and he spells BMW all lowercase, all of a sudden he no longer is positioned as the industry expert. They're going, well, you can't even write it properly. Or okay, there was an ad on TV when computers were first started, and I'll never forget this one because it was a cheesy salesman, and he was trying to sell this computer. And one of the lines was, he was talking about the computer, and he goes, and that's not a mouse, that's a rat. And he was describing how great this thing was, and you'll be surfing the weeb in no time. That could be spelling mistakes. So if you're writing that and you're calling the web the weeb, or if you're saying, for example, and this is a big one, in North America, names are always capitalized. So your first and last name or your secondary last name, they're all capitalized. So if you're writing your name with lowercase, your reader's going to look and go, okay, one of the problems that I'm going to have hiring this person is I'm going to now have to proofread their work as well as mine. And they're going to be concerned because there's duplicate effort. So make sure that you proofread, proof. And if you aren't familiar enough with the language, if you're not comfortable enough, and English is a very difficult word, a difficult language. And we don't, as well, je parle en français un peu, but anyways, as a person who only speaks English, I don't recognize that. But if you think about it as English-speaking people, the word red, how do you spell it? Oh, okay, R-E-A-D or R-E-D, I guess. But wait, R-E-A-D is read. So I understand your frustration. So that's why I'm suggesting utilize the peer tutoring as much as possible. And the people that have been raised in Canada, use peer tutoring, because if it looks right to you, no matter how many times you read that, you're going to assume it's right. So utilize your friends, utilize peer tutoring, utilize the writing services. Make sure that the copy is perfect, because that's your brand. So when you're producing something, you're saying, this is me. So if I were to produce something where I was putting marketing on the web, and this is one of my biggest bones of contention with anybody in the business world, is if I'm producing a PowerPoint where one slide, all the letters are capitalized. Next slide, only title case is capitalized, where it's the M, the O, the T, the W. Then the next one, it's not the W, that's lowercase. And then the next one, they're all lowercase. You're going to start questioning my abilities as an instructor. And people will start doing that as you as the information provider. Discovery and definition. So, all right, so now what we're getting into now is developing content first marketing, okay, or web design. So the first thing that the first three things that you want to work on is visual design, function, and the content. Now, I would strongly recommend that you start with content. You start with what your message is. I'm working with an instructor in Georgian where he wants a website developed. So the first thing that he's doing is he's writing everything. Kind of counterintuitive, because, well, wait a minute here. We should be just designing it first and getting the content to fit whatever your design is. Well, believe it or not, your content is actually going to drive whatever your site looks like. So this is the elephant in the room of the discovery and definition. It's just a nice picture. Anyhow, so as developers, we will, I almost guarantee 99 times out of 100, we're going to start with the design first. When you started with your website, when I said, hey guys, create a website, the first thing you did was you looked at the themes on WordPress. I'll bet, and if I looked across the room, I'll bet nobody considered what you were going to write. You wanted the design first. Am I right? And it's not wrong at this point. I would assume that I'm right with everybody. That they look and went, oh, this site looks nice. I think I'm going to go with this one. And then we'll just fill in the content. And in your defense, that's how the assignment is written. To create the design first and then fill in the content, which in one sense isn't fair because now I'm kind of switching it around on you. But in another sense, it's easier for you as first-time designers. So this is the way that things normally go. It's a convoluted thing. You're going to have to memorize every box and how they're positioned for the next exam. Okay, this is worth 50%. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't lose any sleep over this chart. This is just a visual. Don't study this for an exam. I will not put this on the exam. And if I do, it's going to be a generic type question like, what is this? So this is your site structure. So you've got you've got your main site right there. Then underneath it, you've got your foundation. So that it's kind of like the Blue Jays one that I was talking about. So at the very top, you'd have the Toronto Blue Jays. Then underneath it, you would have their charity. And under that, you're going to demonstrate all the different things about the charity, etc. Then over on the other side, you've got the functionality. If you're developing a website, think about what your content's going to be. Also, one of the first projects you should start thinking about as well is making a list of what you want your site to do, what the journey of your end user is going to be. So that's functionality. You know, I want a guest book. I want somebody to be able to sign up for my newsletters. I want I want an event calendar. So people can, if somebody looks at my resume and says, I really want to see that person, they can check and see when I'm available and schedule an appointment, etc. Start making that list because I almost guarantee you if you're using WordPress, there's a plugin for whatever you can imagine. And if you're using Wix, I hope there is. I don't know. I've never dealt with Wix, so I'm not really certain about the secondary support for them, but I would assume that there's some sort of extensions as well. All right, so visual design versus technical requirements. This is kind of what I was talking about, developing your functionality, your security. Security is something that you could consider right now, but there's plugins for security with WordPress. So I have my sites installed with a security method that if somebody tries to access a file that's not on my website too many times, their IP address is permanently blocked. So it means that they're not on my site. They're crawling in the back end trying to find something. So that's the type of security that you can actually get for free. My company is Turtleback Canada. We have one client in the US. We have one client in Denmark. Other than that, we service Canadian customers. So do I really need somebody from Russia crawling my site? No. So I can geo-block them. Do I need somebody from Australia crawling my site? No. So I can block that country too. What that's doing is it's helping you as well when you're creating the analytics. You don't have to deal with the superfluous countries that don't mean anything. You're taking those stats away from your information and you can just focus on what's relevant. Blocking schedule. Okay, so this is kind of what we were talking about. This is called a blocking, or it's called a Gantt chart. It's a very rudimentary Gantt chart. Okay, now if we're talking about it in a blocking, like an integrated marketing campaign blocking chart, what would happen is down this column here would be all of your activities. Then, as you can see, week 1, week 2, week 3, and those will be your activities that you're performing as you're going along. But here's something that's interesting. For this one, this is a Gantt chart. And you see it here, additional activities at the very bottom, not included in the proposal, content editing, web writing, and search engine optimization. That's at the very bottom of the list. And if you look, content editing is all the way at the end of your project. And if you look here, the only other thing is initial design development. So you can see that people are more focused on getting the design. Oh, we'll fill it in later. That's okay. Just get it for us. And one of my clients is really bad for that. I'm developing a site right now. I'm redesigning it. You know what? Just design it, and we'll give you the information. And if you don't have the information, you don't know what the design should look like. The information should drive your design. So All right. So the content, if you consider where the content is, it's in sales, it's in marketing, it's in research development, it's in engineering, it's in manufacturing, it's in logistics. So as a content writer, your number one responsibility isn't to just produce the content. You've got to engage everybody. Find out what it is that their story is so you can create the information. So you've created the design first. It's perfect. You've got the beautiful design. What comes next? Well, now we've got to do the content. Well, no one has time. No one wants to deal with it. Nobody really understands the complexities of SEO, so it's now a secondary issue. But the site looks nice. The writer's overwhelmed by the requirements. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. I've got a marketing report that's due next week, but the site looks nice. The people don't care too much about the project because it's now, in their eyes, completed. But the site looks nice. The people in charge of creating the site don't have the tools to help you get your arms around the content. So say, for example, if you engage a third-party organization to develop your website, they don't have the tools to reach out to your sales department, but the site looks nice because it's designed first. And no one has time to think about what happens to the content after it launches. But the site looks nice. So basically what I've done is I've gone through all of these excuses and reasons and problems. The only thing that you're going to have is a nice looking blank site. So you can't focus that way. And this is what happens when you design first, content second, is everything implodes. Because okay, actually, yeah, there's a time scope diagram as well. So if you adjust your time or your scope, your cost ends up getting destroyed. So it's basically like that. You go time, scope, cost. And then if any of those things are impacted, the overall cost of your site or overall delivery date of your site is going to be destroyed. So if you say, for example, all right, we've got to cut back the budget, what's going to happen is your site development's going to slow down. If they say, oh, the scope, well, we want to add some more functionality to it, all of a sudden now your delivery date's affected, etc. So by designing first and then content second, you're going to end up missing your deadlines. You're going to end up with a project that's just not going to ever be completed. So who should own the content? All right, so I've gone through a lot of the stuff already. In your eyes, who should own the content of a website? And there's no right or wrong. So, and there's no sitting on the fence. I'm not saying, oh, I think everybody.
Marketing?
Marketing should own the content? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. IT? Okay, actually, I was going to actually go to the IT department because I've worked for an organization where IT drove the website. Like the content, the look, the feel, the everything. So IT does do it. Okay.
Is it a combination of the three?
Okay, so you know what? You're sitting on the fence, but if you were going to say all of them, then that's fine. I'll allow your answer too. So yeah, it can be all three. But what you've got to do is you've got to find a nice little mix, because the website that IT developed, they worked very closely with engineering. Guess how that website looked? Awful. Because IT and engineering are all focused on the granular type of things. IT isn't really focused on the overall look. Sales has all sorts of information about the customer that you really need to do, like to tap into. Marketing has the overall brand appearance in mind. They also have the way that your content, et cetera, that should be produced. And the IT can help you with the structure. Now, when I started with that company where it was all driven by the IT department, the first thing I rallied for was to remove it from the IT, but not completely. So I drove the design, I drove the message, but IT drove the functionality. And the really nice thing about that was that IT had software created that would develop spec sheets automatically. All you had to do was just select different sections of a sentence, and it would build the entire spec sheet for you. So Everyone does have a part that they can play, especially considering that content is very, very messy. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to have problems because it's overwhelming. And here's one that you may not consider is it's political. Content is, okay, well, if you're the marketing department, you walk in and you say to the owner of the company, I need to know what your overall sales are for last year, because we need to put that in our About Us page because we want to establish that we're larger than you might think. You think that the owner of the company in a private organization is going to tell you that money? No, they're not going to share that information with you. Sales, and this is another one that's really political, is that you get organizations that say, well, you know what? We want to fly under the radar. We don't want our competition seeing how we're doing. So we're not going to give you the information about who our customers are. And that's a real world one that I deal with on 3 of my websites. Hey, who are your customers? Send me some application pictures. Well, we don't want to. We want to fly under the radar. We don't want the big guys seeing us. So you've got that. So it's political. And more often than not, if you leave the content till the last, it will be last minute. And I have a saying that I tell all my clients, I've told all of the people that I used to work with, is if you want it bad, that's how you'll get it. So if you think about that for a second, it's if you want something really, really bad, oh, we just need it, we need it, hurry, 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 you're going to get a rushed effort and it's going to be bad. As well, content is always moving target, because what Vanessa was looking for information last week, you're not looking for anymore. Now you're looking for something completely different. It's always changing. It's always fluid. Fact number 2, content is more complicated than we want to accept or believe. And again, when you're dealing with organizations, it's the number one thing is that we think that it's easy. We think, oh, you know what? The content's just straightforward, no big deal. And you'll hear that all the time. Well, you've got 10 minutes, just do it there. You just write it out for us. And it's a lot more complicated, as I've demonstrated so far in this semester, that you've got to consider keywords, you've got to consider strategies, you've got to consider who the customer is, what the message is going to be, how they're going to receive it, where they're consuming the information. These are all things that we've actively spoke of this semester. You've got it, and basically I've talked about all of that. You might want to look at the facts when you're studying for tests. So it's a fact. Content planning and oversight was required dedicated resources. And the most important thing is you've got to have time, skill, and meaningful spend. So an organization that tells you, oh, you know what, we can't afford that, they're not going to have a meaningful website. So they've got to be committed to the project. So, and again, I can't stress it enough that you are the publisher. You're the one that's publishing the content for consumption. Content strategy is planning for the creation. We talked about this actually at the start, just as we were returning from break. But it's not just where you're publishing or what you're publishing, it's why you're publishing. And it goes back to the drill slide where, okay, yeah, you know what, you're buying a drill, you're buying it at Home Depot, but why are you buying that drill? So that's what you've got to start thinking about when you're developing content. As well as it's not, this last bullet is kind of an important one as well. It's not just what you're going to include, but what you're going to leave out. That's really significant because with websites, because you can have as many pages as you want, as long as you want, with no real true additional costs, people try to make sure that they get everything in there. And what you've got to do is start thinking like the consumer and say, does the consumer really need to know the amp volume on that light fixture? Yes, they would, because it's a B2B. But if it was a B2C, as a consumer, I want to know if I plug that lamp in, will it work? Yes, perfect. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know how many amps are required. I don't need to know if it's 110 volt. I don't need to know if it's 347. I just need to know when it plugs in, it works. So that's the stuff that you've got to consider. Web content strategy, it acts as a benchmark for all of your content-related decisions. So your strategy will drive your content. It also offers real-world context for tactical recommendations. So as you're developing this content, you're also developing your tactical recommendations based on it, and your tactical recommendations will drive the context. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but again, this is probably a significant slide for you. So, because it basically goes through what your web content strategy does, and it changes the biggest one is it changes the moving target into a realistic and achievable one. And that, I don't know if you guys have done marketing, but all of a sudden that's starting to sound like a SMART objective. So realistic, it's time sensitive, and it's achievable. Okay, so how does it work? So we create the project foundation, then we develop the content strategy, then the content specifications, then we create the content, and then we maintain and start marketing it. So you're going to ask questions. Okay, and I'm going to put it back over to your situations, and you're doing a resume as well, Vanessa? Yeah, okay. So you guys, for the most part, I think everybody's doing a resume website except for one group. And Stella, you're doing an e-commerce site, I believe.
Not e-commerce.
Oh, okay, affiliate marketing blog type thing. Just a blog? Okay, that's fair. So we've got a little bit of a mix, but you've got to consider what your objectives are, whether they're personal objectives for your resumes, your business objectives. Say, for example, Bristol wants to start generating some money. Soleil wants to just start getting people talking about clothing. You've got to consider what your objectives are. And then you've got to also ask yourself what your end user or your consumer's objectives are. Why are they on your site in the first place? So for the resume, we've talked about it. The employers have a need. They need a very specific set of skills. The travel sites, that's fine. People are looking to travel. They want information about certain things. They're going to want to consume Soleil's information about whatever the topic is at hand. And it's clothing, right? Yeah, so it's clothing. And some of you might be chefs and you're just putting up some recipes and things like that. People are on your site for a reason. You've got to start considering why they're there so you can create the content accordingly. Avoid wasting money on designing, creating, and maintaining unnecessary content. There's no bigger financial drain than wasting time on information that's not being consumed. How can we determine whether information is being consumed or not? That's a lot of information. How do we determine that?
Pages they visit.
Pages they visit. Okay, how long they've been there? How are we finding all this out? Oh, analytics. So we've talked about that already this semester as well. So yes, absolutely. So the type of information that they're looking at, the pages, how long they're on the pages. And another significant tell is their exit page or their abandon page. Because if they're abandoning at a specific site, specific spot on your page without committing any activities, there's a problem on that page, on the landing page. If they're all exiting on a certain page on your website after going through, and especially say, for example, everyone's exiting on your contact page, there's a red flag there because there's something going on where the people are either finding that your contact form is too complicated or they can't, your submit button might even be broken. So utilize the analytics a little bit more and understand what the people are consuming. Okay, so mapping content. We'll go through that one. Okay, so web content strategy. Always audit your content. Make sure that it's relevant. This is really, truly the most important thing that you can do. And you've heard the phrase that I used earlier this morning, scope. You guys have heard what scope creep is? Anyone heard that phrase, scope creep? Okay, for those of you who aren't and or haven't heard of it and just aren't going to tell us that they haven't, scope creep, basically you set the project parameters. So you want a 5-page website. Then all of a sudden you start working on it and your client turns to you and says, no, you know what, I'm just thinking about it, we need 7 pages. Okay. And oh, by the way, we don't only just need 7 pages, we want it to tie directly into our content management or our CRM, our client relationship management software. Oh, and by the way, we also want any of the contact forms that are submitted to us to also write to a database so that we can access it later. And now all of a sudden what you're seeing is scope creep. It's starting to add to the scope of the project, which is going to ultimately delay your deliverable. Okay? So you want to minimize that risk because you're putting your name on the fact of when it's due and that you're going to get it done. You also want to catalog your web pages, print materials, and all communications. One of my customers, as I've mentioned many times, is a light manufacturer, and the first exercise I did with them was very similar to what I talked about to you with the social media, which was we printed out every one of their pictures of their products on a massive page. We output it, and we sat down with engineering, we sat down with sales, and we said, what's wrong with this? They were all white products. They're all just like that, but they all had different colors. There was some blue hues to it. There was some yellow hues, some red hues. They were all different angles. They all told a different tale. So the first thing that we had to do once we audited that content was alter all the pictures to make sure they were all consistent. So when they're being viewed on the page, they're not looking like, if there's a blue hue to a picture, that product looks blue. And the customers are thinking, well, I don't want that. That's blue. So you want to make sure that it's accurate representation, as well as conduct a gap analysis. Basically, a gap analysis is just determining what you've missed. All right, what the customer wants, needs, and what you've missed based on that. All right, so other things that you should keep in consideration is to get the real world content specifications as early as possible. Find out what it is that sales marketing are looking for from their consumers. Speak to the customers. Produce surveys to determine what they want, what they need, and where they want it. Also train and hire web writers. Make sure that when you've got people writing, Mary from payroll, she might be a whiz with clip art. She might be a whiz with getting the payroll done on time. I almost guarantee you Mary from payroll doesn't understand SEO. One of my clients is having a problem reaching page 1 of Google, and I did an audit on their social media, and there were pictures of candy bar wrappers. There was pictures of coffee cups. There was no alt tags and things along those lines. So that's part of a gap analysis. That's me saying, okay, you know what? First off, your social media is not saying anything. Secondly, there's a major gap in what you're telling your consumers. So this is basically who's doing all the work right now. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I think we've beat this one up. I would recommend this structure rather than that structure, because you've got one point person. If you're developing a web project, if say for example you're working for a business and they say, hey, we need a new website, this would be the structure I would follow, where you've got one point person who's driving the site. They don't have to be the ones that are designing it. In fact, if you look, the content strategist is the go-to person for both levels. From your actual departmental services, so your marketing, sales, and IT solutions and e-strategy, they communicate with content strategists. Then you've got the analytics, the web writers, information architect, and of course the designer. If you notice, the designer is below the content strategist. So this is where we're going to. This is basically where we're going to be wrapping up. I'm just going to go over the review again, but the rest of the class we're going to be working on our assignments. I'm going to be here, so if you have questions, please feel free to utilize me. And if you don't, you can take this opportunity to work in class because you've got the computers, you've got the equipment. So anyway, so make sure that your content is qualitative. Engage all of your stakeholders. Provide the accessible documentation for the project team. It results in a higher quality content. And quantitative. Also, this is something that's important. It's not always. And if you think about how people are teaching nowadays, it's not all about the course material, it's about anecdotes. So I use a lot of anecdotes talking about what I do for clients, what I do in a previous life, so that you can associate what I'm talking about with a real situation. I'd recommend at least 25% of your content is driven by anecdotal. So just articles, stories, things along those lines. Make sure that there's measurable project objectives and they're realized within 3 to 6 months post-launch. You might see that one somewhere later on as well, how long it would take to realize. So I would aim, a goal would be, if you say, for example, set a SMART objective of, I want 100 people to visit my website by the end of Q2 by advertising through social media, et cetera, I would recommend that Q2 is 3 to 6 months out, because it's going to take at least 3 months to get traction, 6 months to start realizing any of your goals. And that's it. Are there any questions? Lots of information. Okay. So at this point, like I say, I'm here. I'm more than happy to help you create pages if you need pages created. I'm a WordPress specialist. I am not a Wix specialist. So if you're creating in Wix, I will do what I can, but don't expect the world. As well as if you have any questions about social media, I'd recommend working within your groups for social media at this point as well, because you've got that assignment that's due November 7th. Okay? So there you go.